welcome to my reading vlog for reading Skulduggery Present by Derek Landy. Now obviously this is not a reading for the first time vlog because I have been reading this series since I was 9. Last year I got all the way up to book 8 I think it was, book 7, book 8, and I've also made it all the way through the first series before now. But for the Dead Famous Readalong, which I am a co-host to, I will leave a link up above to my announcement video and also a link down below to my co-host along with the Discord and everything you need to join in. I thought I would reading vlog all of this as well so you can see my reactions as I read it again, because this is my favourite childhood series. I literally adore this series. This was my Percy Jackson. When everyone else was reading Percy Jackson and wanting to be like at Camp Half-Blood and all the rest of it, I was wanting to be in Ireland being Valkyrie, essentially. I wanted to learn magic, I wanted to fight faceless ones and all of that kind of stuff. So this was very much my Percy Jackson and I adore it. And actually this copy is my first ever copy with the sprayed edges and I adore it, quite frankly. This is even my signed version, so I thought I'd use this version with the signature in for this because it is obviously my read-along and, well, partly my read-along, so I thought I'd use this version for this reading vlog and I'm very, very excited. I do adore this series and this is going to be very spoilery. I'm not going to lie, this is going to be a very, very, very spoilery reading vlog because I'm going to be talking about the entire series as a whole. Essentially, I'm not just going to be talking about this book, I will be talking about foreshadowing and all the rest of it. So if you have not read the entire first series of Skulduggery, do not watch this vlog, essentially. If you are reading Skulduggery for the first time, especially, do not watch this vlog. But I wanted to talk about it, I wanted to just sort of talk in general about how much I love the series. I'm not going to be really critiquing it in this vlog. I'm going to be saving that for the live shows. I'm just going to be talking about how much I love it, the foreshadowing, my favourite lines, stuff like that. So yeah, let's get going. I'm so excited to start this. I love this series so much and I just cannot wait. So let's get going. I'm very excited. I'm very excited. Before we do though, I've just got to quickly show you something other than the sprayed edges, and that is the actual end papers. So we've actually got drawings on the inside for Valkyrie and Skulduggery on this side, and then on the other we've got Ghastly and Tanith as well. So I just thought I'd point that out because I think that's really, really cool. They're not in the later versions. There is ones in the Maleficent 7, I know that much, but apart from that there isn't actually any other drawings like that in these books apart from the beginning letters or having a drawing at the front, and that's across all the books and all the editions that I know of. But I just thought I'd show you those end papers because they're rather cool. So I'm at the will reading scene and I haven't gotten to the line I do want to specifically talk about in this, but you've got the fact that Fergus says that Skulduggery sounds like a weirdo just from his name, and it's so weird knowing that when you get to about book 7 I think it is, you find out that Fergus knows about magic and he's got a slight bit of magic in him. And it's so weird knowing that he knows. It's like he's definitely heard that name and gone, that's a magician, a sorcerer. It's a sorcerer, not a magician. But it's just that moment of going, he totally knows at this point, and it's quite fun. But also, you've just got like the fact that I love this book so much because you've just got the fact that they say that Skulduggery may be a bit late and he is a skeleton. So it's kind of funny that he's late as in he is physically late for the meeting, but he's also late as in he's dead, which I find quite funny as well. I do love this. I love this so much. I love like the humour of it and just these little bits of foreshadow the whole way through. I genuinely love it. Okay, so I've now gotten to the line I want to talk about. It says, to my good friend and guide Skulduggery Pleasant, I have leave the following advice. Your path is your own and I have no wish to sway you, but sometimes the greatest enemy we can face is ourselves, and the greatest battle is against the darkness within. There's a storm coming and sometimes the key to safe harbour is hidden from us, and sometimes it is right before our eyes. The foreshadow in that moment. I only caught it on my last reread of this series, so saying like the greatest battle is against the darkness within. That's Lord Vile. His darkness, the battle he faces, the darkness within is Lord Vile, and I adore the fact that he put this in immediately, and it just goes completely over your head. It went completely and utterly over my head the first several times I read this. Got to the Lord Vile plot twist, still didn't figure it out until my last reread, and then I was like, oh, that makes sense now. It's that kind of moment of just the clever foreshadowing this. I love it. I'm gushing. I'm not going to stop gushing in every single vlog I do for this series, but seriously, amazing. Just the darkness within had to be Lord Vile. The foreshadow is so subtle but so good when you see it. I love that line. I love that line. I love the fight in the house, in Gordon's house, when Stephanie finds out about the magic, because it's like, she's so shocked, yet the entire conversation is so matter of fact about it, and Skulduggery's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna tell you everything. I love how casual he is about all of it. Also, they say in the next chapter, Meeting China Sorrows, Skulduggery Pleasant's car was a 1954 Bentley R-Type Continental. Right, now, I'm going to quickly Google, because I know that he puts in, like, Derek Landy puts in loads of references to just general, like, pop culture things, and I'm now just wondering what the car was in Good Omens. Right, because it's a 1933 Bentley. So apparently that is, so it's a couple of years off, but it's still a Bentley. It's a black Bentley like it is in here. So I'm just wondering, is that a Good Omens reference? I have a feeling it's a Good Omens reference, because there's so many classic cars that he could have used, and he went for Bentley. And obviously Good Omens is a huge pop culture thing, so I think it was a reference. I'm going to say it's a reference. Just got to Ghastly's first chapter, and it literally says, mannequins that came alive and tried to eat you, perhaps. That is totally a Doctor Who reference, because obviously Christopher Eccleston's first episode literally dealt with living plastic that tried to eat Mickey. That's totally a reference. That is totally a reference. I'm telling you, I'm having so much fun finding all the pop culture references. Really enjoying that. I absolutely love it when Tanith turns up. She literally just comes in and takes the head off a troll. Just absolute badassery. I love it when you have women with swords characters, and Tanith is one of my favourites. I'm pretty sure Tanith is the reason of why I like the trope of women with swords, because this was like the first one I ever saw, so I reckon it was all of that. But I love her introduction, and I love her as a character. Her whole storyline I adore. It's so fun reading this one and them talking about the Faceless Ones and everything else, knowing that book 3 is called the Faceless Ones, and they're talking about the Sceptre of the Ancients and everything else, and knowing how Stephanie is connected to it all, knowing that she is a descendant of the Ancients. I just find it so fascinating seeing all of this, sort of like all the first mentions of these things coming in now in this first book, and then remembering how it grows in the next ones. I really enjoy that, I've got to admit. I also still love like the description of Valkyrie, Stephanie suiting up for the first time, because I actually have memories of dressing up like that as well for a World Book Day. So I literally dressed as Stephanie for a World Book Day. Stephanie is Valkyrie. Anyway, I had the trench coat and everything. I wish I had photos. I wish I still owned that coat, but unfortunately I don't. But I love that because it just brings back fun memories of actually dressing as Stephanie that one time when I was 11. I love that we also got the first mention in chapter 13 of the tunnels under Gordon's house, because obviously that is such an important bit going forward. Like, there's so many moments where they're underneath the tunnels and everything, and like you get everything that's in the tunnels and the giant battles in the tunnels. So I love seeing it for like the first time and them going, how do we open the tunnels? And I'm like, blatantly obvious. Well, it's not blatantly obvious, but when you've read it a few times it's like, oh yeah, that's obvious. But it's just like, it's so funny reading this now with them going, I don't know how to get in these tunnels, and then skip forward a few years, they're just going down in the tunnels all the time like it's a random Tuesday, and I love that. I seriously, I've said it before, but I love how much that this is setting up in terms of like later books, like how like all the later books develop, and you start to get those types of things where you've got like the Book of Names is being mentioned, and obviously that causes issues. You've got the darkness inside Skulduggery as well. What else have you got? Like the tunnels, obviously, and stuff like this. You just get so many references in this one setting up the rest of the series, and I love it. I know that's a basic thing for most series, but I'm a fangirl for this series. I am a complete fangirl for this series, and I love everything. I just love everything in this story. This is fantastic. I love this line. I love it. I love it. I love it. Am I in focus? I'm not in focus. Hello. Focus in. Focus in. Focus in. I'm focused in. Right. I love this line. Anyway, it says, maybe you stand some chance after all. Before you go, will you do me the honour of introducing yourself? Of course. My name is Valkyrie Kane. I love that line. I love it so much. I love that it's the introduction properly into Valkyrie and her taking on the magic and everything else. I love the fact that we get her name. I love the reasons why she's called that, because of the rise of the Valkyries bit with her dad. And I love the fact that Skulduggery says she's always raising Kane. I love it, and I love that. I just love everything it represents. I love characters called Valkyrie for some reason, apparently, and I think it's because of this book. Always love characters called Valkyrie, and I love this scene where she's taken on her name. It's just so badass, and I love it. Again, in chapter 18, we also have this mention of like the anger of Skulduggery and everything else, and again, it's just going back to Lord Vile. It's vile over and over and over again. Like whenever you mention the darkness, whenever you mention the war and his anger and everything, it's always just, it's so obvious when it's not even obvious. It's just, it makes so much sense that he's vile, and even with all this talk of his anger and his disappearance and everything else when he was apparently dead, you still don't realise he's vile. I'm just mind blown by that. But also we've just had the chapter where Serpine creates the white cleaver, and it's just like, oh yeah, that's a lot of trouble in future books. And I love seeing, just going back and reading all of these again and just seeing all of like where it all started. I just love going back and seeing where it all started and seeing like the starts of where all of these plot points come in and rereading all these origins. I keep on saying this, but I am loving rereading this book. I am loving it. Two things. First one being that I love the fact that China eventually ends up coming in to save them all, because I know that she's morally grey, but she's generally on the side of good. And I really love that juxtaposition between that, like her and Mr. Bliss, because they are siblings and obviously they were raised the same way, but I love seeing that sort of how both of them work in the morally grey spectrum. I love that in this book. But also I love that we've got the idea originally coming in this one that Stephanie is one of the ancients, or like a descendant of the ancients. Obviously I've only read up to the end of series 1 with Darkest and all the rest of it. I haven't read further than that so far, but I have heard rumblings that this is going to come more into play in later books. Obviously I don't want to know because I want the second series to be a surprise, but I am very interested that it all comes in now, and it kind of works into the Darkest thing. But also I love that it says it means you're special, it means you're meant to do this, you're meant to be involved in this world, in this life. It's just like, yes she is. And I love the fact that she's so perfectly suited to the life of magic and being in this world. I love it. I just genuinely love it so much. I know what happens to Ghastly. Like, I know Ghastly ends up fine in a couple of books, but I always get kind of sad when he turns himself into stone in chapter 25. I don't know why, I always just feel slightly sad when he ends up as concrete. It's like, he's absolutely fine. I know he's fine. He comes back in a couple of like books, he's absolutely fine, and yet I'm just like, oh, it just makes me sad because I really like Ghastly's character. Ghastly's one of my favourites, and I just get sad when he turns to concrete. So I have just finished Skulduggery Present again for like the 5th time in my life, I think it is, and I still love it. I still love how it all ends. I love how this book wraps up and everything it brings into the story, and just the kind of things it started hinting at about, like Skulduggery saying there's something about Valkyrie and he wants to keep her by his side and stuff like this in a very, very clearly platonic way. I'm so glad that it doesn't go that way, because that would have been really creepy. But I really love that he's like, I want you by my side, and obviously there is something about her, and it's like they're both sides of the same coin, with both of their personalities, and both their secret personalities are so similar. I love the fact that in the ending of this one you also have her like that one line where she glances at her name in the book of names, and obviously that comes back to bite them in the arse later, which I love. And I love how everything is set up in this book. I love how fun this first book is as well, and I can't stop gushing about this book because literally it is one of my favourite books of all time. I do genuinely love it. I have loved reading this again. It was such a great start to the read-along as well, and I'm so excited to discuss it in a non-spoilery way in the live show. I will hopefully have the date for you when this is uploaded, and I'll leave a date down below if we've got one. If not, I will eventually update this video with that link. But I'm just so excited to be starting this series again and loving this series again, and just generally really enjoying myself. And so this time I gave it 4 stars because there are a few problematic elements in this book that we will be discussing in the live show, but other than that I thoroughly enjoyed this book and I just love being back in this world again. And that is the end of this reading vlog, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up. Comment down below if you've read Skulduggery before, especially if you've read the whole series. I'd love to know. Also, if you're going to be joining us for the live show, please tell me down below because I'd love to know who's going to be joining us. I'll also leave a link down below to all of my social media if you want to check it out, including to the Comic Book Sanctum, which is my website dedicated to Marvel Comics. And if you want to see any more of my videos, please click subscribe here, and over here will be the link to my previous video. But until next time everyone, bye!